Ah, the sniper. The Scooty Tooty Point and Shooty, also known as the class that throws piss at people. But what if I told you that was not always the case? Now take a trip back in time with me, to the 21st of May 2009, as I tell you about...
You never see it coming.
Hi, I'm Ihasnotomato. You may remember me as the actor who played HR Puffnstuff in the hit TV show of the same name. And today we are finally going to be talking about the long-awaited Snipper Update. Much like the previous few updates, we are blessed with the God-tier Daily Update. So of course this video will be segmented thusly as we have a lot to cover, as this update introduced a ton of stuff to the game, which is weird as my notes are only showing 3 items. Anyway, without further ado, let's make a Philip DeFranco reference. Day 1 of the long-awaited Sniper Update brings us the number one thing that tore the sniper from the backlines to the front. The Huntsman. Now look, I really shouldn't have to explain to you why it's such a big deal, but remember that before its inclusion, snipers literally had just the sniper rifle as a primary. There was no alternative, so naturally the devs figured that the best way to spice up said class that arguably revolved entirely around skill was to add one of the most luck-based items in the game. Okay, of course I'm exaggerating here. Personally, while I believe you do get your fair share of lucky shots, you do actually have to aim, and in some cases even time it fairly well as well. I often find myself thinking I'll be far better with it than I actually am, as I just lean on the luck factor until it can no longer support my weight and breaks in 2. Now, the Huntsman being such a rudimentary item hasn't really had any major changes to it other than constantly tweaking how the flaming arrow stuff works. Except for one major detail which I had almost completely blocked out of my mind, was that upon release it bafflingly appeared on the left side of the HUD, of which caused many, including myself, to have aneurysms. This of course was changed eventually, but the horrifying time still lingers in the dark recesses of my mind to this day. Ah, Pipeline. Many a youthful hour spent here, I tell you. This map for me is what defined the Sniper Update. I honestly cannot tell you how much time I spent on this map, desperately trying to get all the new weapons and then playing it for hours and hours more after the fact. Seriously, I remember so little about 2009 other than the fact I spent most of my time after school playing TF2 on this very map. In this very game mode for that matter. As indeed this was also the very first Payload Race map to be added, of which you may be familiar with its more recent maps such as Banana Bay. Honestly, I've always liked Payload Race, although I don't feel like many people play it nowadays, probably due to the multitude of mediocre maps it has, but Pipeline will always be a classic to me. Oh, and pointless fun fact, these doorways were added years later. So much later, in fact, I never remember they are even there, as it's not hardwired into my years of playing this map. Speaking of pointless facts, they also showcase this map with a little letter the sniper sent to his mother. Aww. Oh, and speaking of pointless facts, they also converted both Sawmill and Nucleus to arena maps on this page, which is, nice, I guess. I mean, it's arena mode, so, yeah, you know. Day 3 of the jamming jamboree, and we are introduced to the Razorback, a very odd weapon in both being a tribal shield with a car battery attached to it, but also being the first item in the game designed to directly counter exactly one class. The Spy. This was quite an interesting addition as it held no real secrets to it. It was exactly as advertised, a purely utility-based item. Quite the strange sight at first. Oh, and forget about all this overheal penalty and regenerating over time nonsense. Back in the day, it just blocked the one backstab, then it was done. You had to go to a supply closet to get it back. That's all it did. Which, in all honesty, was not the most exciting thing in the world. Even to this day, I'm not really a big fan of it, as there are so many other options for secondaries I personally prefer, but to each their own. But regardless, the TF2 team would have to think of something gosh dang amazing to surprise us on the next day. Day 4 rolls around and we're introduced to